I swear, I had no plans on reviewing this one anytime soon. Heck, I got this right before I even came out with my Dark Souls review, but here we are. Warlander is a roguelike with combat elements inspired by Dark Souls and a bit of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. You play as Bruce seeking revenge against killing his people. Armed with a talking spirit sword known as Ferguson, he is ready to dish out some hardcore justice. As with most roguelikes, it features procedural generation and permadeath. A pretty awesome premise. Does it deliver? Also, before we begin, two things to address. One, this is a pre-release version of the game, so any issues may or may not be addressed before launch. And two, this game was provided to me free by the developer Pow3rh0use. While I appreciate the free code, I will be as fair and honest as possible. Got it? Good.
If you don't get it, figure it out.
So you can start off with the campaign or the tutorial. I recommend the tutorial since it acts as a prelude to the main campaign. It does a great job showing you the various mechanics in play and the simple but effective control scheme. It gets more complex with various abilities, but it always feels natural. Personally, I prefer these types of games on a controller, but it works well enough on a mouse and keyboard. This will be your first exposure to combat, and holy crap is it incredibly cathartic, dissecting your opponent limb from limb. It's incredibly satisfying cutting off the legs of an enemy, then finishing them off with a brutal stomp or just straight up decapitating one. Just hacking away at parts and calling it a day. There's a nice variety of elements, all with different armor arrangements and attacks. Some also have armor pieces that can trigger an explosion if you strike it. It's amazing how far you can go with this concept, and Pow3rh0use has done a great job of that. There are also various moves you can unlock, many of them being very useful. One of my favorite abilities is the shield dash. It helps to close into enemies very quickly and stun them for a bit. Another one is the ability to create a vine that grabs the enemy and you can toss them around like a ragdoll. It's great stuff. So once you finish up the tutorial and start up the campaign, you'll be given a map with multiple routes to take. This map is determined by the procedural generation, so it's theoretically different every time you play. Your goal is to get to the end to face the big baddie and call it a day. Each place can either be an item to gain, a battle of normal enemies, defeating tree to level up, or a boss to face. Being a roguelike, the element of permadeath is present with you having to start back from the beginning. As you beat certain bosses, you permanently unlock abilities for future playthroughs. This is incredibly helpful as you can focus your XP on other concerns. Speaking of XP, that's not the only thing you'll need to collect. Certain moves require both XP and body parts, either heads, arms, or legs. It's another way to add meaning to each swing you make. Throughout the game, you'll come across chests that can provide you with a nice variety of boosts. These include movement speed, increased stamina, larger health bar, and many more. You're always provided a choice between two upgrades, and it's up to you to choose the one that you find more beneficial. While I definitely was satisfied with playing this one, I do have my gripes. One minor annoyance is seeing the same opening cutscene every time you begin a new campaign. Considering how often you will die, this gets repetitive quickly. I wish there was a way to automatically skip cutscenes instead of having to manually do it. A nitpick in the grand scheme of things, but worth bringing up. Also, what is up with the voice actor of the main character? He's just terrible. I'm sorry. The rest of the voices are fine, but this is just a bad performance. His over-inflections and random slowdowns really kill the vibe. As much as I really do enjoy the combat, it is hampered by a few elements. For one, the arenas you fight in need more variance. By the second playthrough, the locations started to repeat. For the second, the movement needs to be a bit tighter. For some reason, your character will pause for a bit when trying to move diagonally. It sounds like a minor issue, but becomes incredibly noticeable, especially when trying to move out the way. Currently, the only control scheme available is with a mouse and keyboard, and while the controls are solid, I would like to see controller support added in. Thankfully, some of these issues have been addressed after I let the developers know. Performance has improved and more variation was added. Controller support has still yet to be added in, but hopefully they can implement it before launch. Overall, this game has great potential to be amazing at launch. The combat system is very enjoyable with various abilities to unlock and simple cathartic fun of slashing foes to bits. However, I would like to see the developers address issues like the lack of controller support and continue to add more to spice up the gameplay. Either way, I'm looking forward to the final release and I wish Pow3rh0use the best of luck. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe and let me know what I should review next. And this is Pow3rh0use signing off.